So it was about the first week that we've been playing Playerunknown's Battlegrounds.
And so he says, all right, man, I'm going to take you to this school. And if you know the school, it's basically like this super hot zone in the middle of the island.
We saw a bunch of other parachutes, but as soon as you get down and hit the ground, you forget where other people are.
Some land before me, and I see them. I can see like people like punching each other.
There's like epic fist fights happening. I knock out one guy, and then someone else, and then I run around, pick up a shotgun.
Okay, I gotta try and find a weapon. I see a shotgun, and I like kind of inch my way towards it.
All of a sudden, this motorcycle comes just flying in off a ramp and lands right next to me.
And as I come down this hill, I see two people behind a rock healing each other. Naturally, what are you gonna do? I'm gonna run my car right through both of them.
So I jump out of the house and I just got run right over and knocked down.
We are just like all quiet and just listening.
I lean out the window, I pop him right in the head.
I killed 2 people.
And then this fool like got smoked.
There were only 10 or 8 players left.
There's like 50 people left. And I was like rolling up into these houses in a Jeep.
As soon as he comes around the corner, get him right in the head.
Ask anyone who's played PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, and they'll probably have a story to tell. Selling 4 million copies in its first 3 months of early access, Battlegrounds is tailor-made for water-cooler conversations and animated retellings, as people reflect on their triumphs and failures in the multiplayer shooter. It's a game that spread largely through word of mouth, painting a picture of an unpredictable, highly replayable experience. Its rules are straightforward: to be the last person or squad standing on a massive map with dozens of other players. To put it more simply, just think of the Hunger Games, or the movie that inspired them, Battle Royale. Despite the simplicity of Battlegrounds subgenre, there is an array of possibilities underneath. It's equal parts terrifying, tense, stressful, invigorating, and sometimes even hilarious. You'll rarely experience the same match twice. It draws a massive streaming audience for many of the same reasons.
Boom, baby!
Of course, it doesn't tell a story in the traditional sense of the word. But in a weird way, I think PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds is a thrilling approach to storytelling, and I think more games can learn from it in the future. First, a bit of necessary background. PUBG can be traced through a line of similar games, beginning with the Battle Royale mod for DayZ, the survival game that used to be a mod for Arma 2. When DayZ became a standalone title, Battle Royale moved to Arma 3. Sony Online Entertainment, interested in that type of multiplayer game, created H1Z1 and later developed the idea with H1Z1 King of the Kill. Finally, a South Korean studio called Bluehole recognized the potential in the Battle Royale genre and created PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, otherwise known as PUBG. This ancestry is important because each of the games I just mentioned exists largely because of one person, Brendan Green, better known by his handle, PlayerUnknown. He moved from modding to Bluehole, spearheading development on the multiplayer games that would eventually congeal to become PUBG as we know it now. When he first began his modding career 4 years ago, Green noticed that the vast majority of competitive shooters were moving toward the same kind of design. They were based on small maps. Everyone knew every spot on the map. There was no guesswork to it. When I created Battle Royale, what I wanted was to create a random game where you never knew what you might find and how it was going to end. By creating a massive map, Green removed the repetition of Call of Duty or Counter-Strike. PUBG's terrain, villages, and coastlines all remain the same from one match to the next, but it's so massive of a scale that your perception of it constantly changes. Throw in the randomized loot, airstrikes, and the lethal blue fog that pushes players into ever-constricting firefights, and the map takes on new meaning the more you play. PUBG's map runs counter to something like Halo, a series which evolved over time to reflect the lane-based multiplayer maps that have become so pervasive in the shooter space. Ever since Halo 4, I've remembered those arenas less and less. They become more about funneling players to a handful of specific places, rather than letting them make informed decisions on more natural, sprawling maps. My point is, PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds gives you time to think. It allows for more intentional choices on both large and small scales. By doing so, it lets you create your own stories. Those who have played it can probably remember very specific details of their favorite matches, what weapons they used, when they ejected from the plane, whether they stuck to the hills or cut through villages. If they were playing as a squad, they might remember just how they decided to flank enemies, using tactics that started to take shape the moment they landed on the island. This all contributes to your headcanon, or your understanding of a shared universe that might not be accepted by anyone else. Jake Solomon, the creator of the more recent XCOM titles, uses this term when referring to the stories players find within their assorted rosters of soldiers. XCOM has a story running through the campaign, in the cutscenes, and the mission progression, but it has always been about the stories that players create in the moment. We're systematizing the headcanon. In the case of PUBG, it's the map itself that becomes part of our individual understanding. The military base in the south may always be a tranquil place with useful loot to me, but a foreboding death trap to you. Whereas the swamp town outside of Gatka was the fateful spot of my first chicken dinner, but for you, it's merely a small settlement you only ever passed through. This is the same kind of internal storytelling that makes games such as Skyrim, Breath of the Wild, State of Decay, and Shadow of Mordor so fantastic. They are different for each of us, and we experience them in our own way. It's why we seek out live streams and amazing YouTube moments, to see what other people achieve in this game world we know so well. It's because sharing these stories is half the fun. Which is all to say that in games like this, it's not the concrete plots we remember, but the moments that emerge from the choices we make. PUBG suggests that video game narratives don't always have to be about specific characters, plot points, or guided decisions. And I think more games need to follow in its wake. More games should be confident enough to let us be the characters, to let us make our own decisions, and to let us create the stories.
And there are like 2 or 3 people left, assume that they're all their friends. Unfortunately, they came in and I'm sure that they all communicated and told them that I was in the car. I got.
I walk, and there's 2 guys just huddled behind a building together, just like freaked out, and I shot them both in the face.
We take out about like 2 or 3 more people, and then the school's ours. And there's this moment where, even though the match had only been going on for about like 2 minutes at this point, and I had like, the whole other like 30 minutes left, it's like, dude, fuck, I could do anything.
And for some crazy reason, we pulled it off. We killed like another 5 people. Well, Michael did. I just kind of helped. And we won. And it was the most satisfying thing ever.
I was like, hey, that's that dude over there. So I just like rolled behind the rock and bam, bam, bam. And I got that chicken dinner, man.
Hey everyone, thanks so much for watching episode 10 of Reboot. This one was really fun. We got a lot of people at the GameSpot office involved. Next week on our off episode, we're gonna do something different. Rather than just take comments about the argument that I had in this video, we want you also to share your personal stories from Battlegrounds or from like XCOM 2 or any other games that I mentioned in this vein of storytelling. We really wanna hear it, so we're gonna go through and pick the best ones. Kind of try to be as succinct as possible, but regardless, just give us the details and we're gonna go through our favorite ones and we'll read them on the next episode a week from today. We'll see you there.